Welcome to Relationship Mastery, a podcast for those who want to learn how to master the art of creating happy, healthy, and loving relationships. Please join me, Adey-Jones, and my co-host, Barry Selby, each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for a lively and informative conversation on everything to do with relationships. Hello, everyone. Welcome back for a juicy topic this week. We are jumping on board with Barry and I are jumping on board with the whole obsession with this Hispan scandal that is going that started off at a Coldplay concert when the head of a company, what's his name, Andy Byron, ex-CEO of an AI startup, was canoodling with his head of HR. Her name was, I'm making notes here, Kristen Cabot. Anyway.
Yes. And they're both married separately. That's the key thing here.
Yes, they are. They're both married separately, and unfortunately, as much as their spouses are hurt by this whole expose, I know for at least with the Andy Byron, he also has 2 children. I don't know about Kristen Cabot, if she has children or not. But more than just this, what I really wanted to dive in this week with you, Barry, is why we, not me actually, because I will exclude myself, because I'm actually disgusted by the voyeurism of witnessing somebody else's downfall. Now, I say that as somebody that was very, very publicly cheated on in my life, which was incredibly painful and humiliating. And I can understand his wife's reaction, or soon to be ex-wife. She has dropped his name and is filing for divorce and is done with it. To quote her, what did she say? She said she didn't make the decision out of bitterness. She says she made it out of peace, that the betrayal was painful, but the public humiliation cut deeper than anything, which is so true. It's bad enough feeling like somebody has betrayed you, but when it's so public, it adds another layer onto it. But I really would love to focus today on why so many people take joy in seeing the public humiliation and shaming of another person. That, to me, that psychological thing that happens where people become almost sort of, animalistic in their joy. And I was reading something that Kat Rosenfield had written, and she said, when we take joy in the distress and public shaming of another person and the ruination of them, we make monsters out of ourselves. And I really do think that. I think there's many psychological layers why people do it, but I really need to sort of feel like, who have you ever been so perfect in your life that you completely can point a finger at another person? Or sorry, you go.
Well, no, I was going to say, the thing about this whole piece is really, in some ways, it's about people avoiding their own stuff. They like to say they feel better. It's also it's that feeling like, I'll feel better by making somebody else feel worse. There's this paradigm people play, whereas because they're not willing to be they're not willing to be transparently honest with themselves, and so rather than face their own limitations, mistakes, misgivings, whatever it is, they go, oh, look at that, look. They just this whole projection stuff on other people to feel better about themselves, which is one thing with it.
It gives them a sense of superiority, like, well, at least I'm not as bad as that.
Right.
At least I keep my affairs hidden in secret. I'm not publicly displaying it at a Coldplay concert. There's that. There's this phrase, and I'm probably going to completely mess it up, but I'm going to attempt to say it, or rather word. It's a German word, and it's Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude, exactly. And that's the pleasure that we get in seeing somebody else's, misfortune or fall from grace, or however we want to describe it. But that we actually, there's this sort of joy that we get in that they deserved it. let's go back to a little bit of politics, but it's the same thing when we see, I think that's what's happening right now is, apparently the elite are, child molesters. So let's take the elite down. That's happening in our politics right now. But it's the same thing. It's a CEO, somebody that has it all, suddenly loses it, because he did resign from his job before he was probably fired. And I don't know about this Kristen Cabot. She's probably, she's head of HR, which is, pretty the irony of that. Exactly.
It's like putting the fox in charge of the hen house in a way.
Exactly. But it's interesting to see that again. It's that wanting to equal the playing field. If we see somebody as entitled or special or have more than us, I don't want to keep using the word us because I really don't put myself in that camp. I have a very, I think it's because I came from a family of 7 children. And I used to, as a very young child, if I had an issue with one of my brothers or sisters, it was okay to talk about that issue with one other person. It was okay to say, I'm having a problem here, in my mind. But when it became like, say, 6 of us together and one was missing and we start talking about the one that was missing, I have such an issue with that. I just feel like it's ganging up. It's if you have an issue, yes, I'm not saying you always go to the person you're having an issue with. Sometimes you need to discuss it with one other person maybe. But it's that sense of fairness that I've really had since a child of not dogpiling on somebody.
Right.
Not sort of taking glee in putting other people down.
See, the thing about this, though, that comes up, though, is like you're talking about within the family. Before that kiss cam video was exposed, those photos, 99.9% of people in the country didn't even know who they were. They weren't on the radar of anybody. They weren't like a famous celebrity who suddenly was discovered cheating. So it wasn't a known quantity going, okay, this celebrity cheated on this celebrity, therefore we can get dogpile on them. This was a completely unknown person. Yes, they were well off, certainly, running their own company, lots of money, lots of excitement and stuff. So we're getting exposed in a very short period of time to all the details, including the sordid facts and everything that happened about what went on. And it is, if anything, it's like one of these salacious like TV show things. We're suddenly exposed to these characters without actually knowing anything about their backstory, what they came from. And yet at the same time, there's a thrill that can be gained by people who basically look at this and going, wow, that's so enticing, which in a way makes me think that this scandal, which is real life, is paralleling a lot of TV shows people love to be addicted to because it gives them perhaps an escape from their own lives to enjoy being, as you said earlier, like being superior, just being titillated by what's happening, not to them, but to somebody else, negatively,
Well, again, but, we know when we're watching a work of fiction, we know it's based on reality. We know this happens all the time, but they are actors playing a fictitious role. And we can enjoy it. It's drama, it's intrigue, it's whatever. Me too. I love human drama. Somebody said to me the other day, I can't believe you recommended this book. It's so sad. And I'm like, really? Well, I thought it was really poignant and beautifully written and very lyrical. And then I thought about it afterwards. And I thought, well, yeah, probably the content was very sad and depressing for some people, but not for me. I love intrigue. I love family, or rather relationship. Obviously, if we do this show, we both are. Right. Intrigued by the complexities of human nature and what we do. So yes, I mean, many people have affairs or tempted to have affairs, and I'm not in judgment of that so much. I'm more in judgment of the people that are judging, because that's where I say, hang on a minute, these are real people, real lives that are being impacted, especially the wives and husbands and children. I mean, that's where I feel like I have some sense of decorum for their sake, at least. Don't be gleeful about this thing. Somebody's family just got ripped to shreds publicly, and it's not. It's one thing when it happens sort of privately between adults, and maybe you feel that your partner's affair was very public in your community, but you can still shield the children. Usually, you can still shield them from the shame of their parents' behavior. But in this situation, that's not going to happen.
No.
There are so many. There are commercials. I was watching CNN earlier today, and there was a commercial on oh gosh, what is it? State Farm or one of those insurance companies, and it's the mayhem character, the man that's always sort of got abandoned and beaten up, and he's sitting watching a concert with this woman, and clearly it's a play on this situation. And I think there are so many more. Apparently, there are many, many different brands that have. Aldi's jumped on. I know one of the burger places have jumped on, fast food places. Everybody is making memes out of this. Even I think Sesame Street was something somebody did a cartoon about. But it's become huge, and again, it's like I don't know. I'm sounding very sort of judgy and moral right now, but I can't help it. It's just I just don't like seeing people unnecessarily hurt, and the wife and the children and her husband. I don't know if she has children. They are the innocent parties here, and this.
Yeah. But then, side of the coin, though, is the fact that this illicit couple went to a public event, and I mean, not saying they would never know clue what's going to happen, but didn't keep it really private. I mean, what I imagine, I don't know, of course, but people having illicit affairs, they're being discreet, they're hiding it out, and they're going to quiet places away from anybody where anybody would know them. But suddenly go on to a worldwide event type thing that's being televised, and the camera sweeps the audience. There's a sense of, I want to say stupidity, but a sense of blindness to what could happen.
Mhm.
That really makes there's no coming back from. And yes, I do feel for the other spouses and for the people infected by this and the kids as well. But there's no what's what I'm looking for? It's not innocence, the wrong word, but there's no excuse for what happened. In a sense, what happened to these two people. They basically put themselves in a situation where and of course there is a question mark about, well, she had an ulterior motive, maybe she forced it. There's also things, well, I mean, I'm not going in that conversation, but there's a lot of speculation on the web because people put their own views on the web without any validation, verification, or evidence about what happened, how it happened, and who did what to who. But the reality is that, yes, as you said, relationships and families have been disrupted and destroyed by this. At the same time, perhaps as a cautionary tale, not saying people who are cheating should be more discreet because of this, but there is a sense that this is a flagrant use of some people's wealth, position, visibility that displays their cheating on camera, which seems so weird to me that they even happened.
Well, I mean, I think what you're pointing to is an arrogance, an arrogance of that they're untouchable, and also that plays into a lot of people have affairs for the risky element of it. I mean, I definitely know that. Again, I disclaimer. When I was very, very young, I did have an affair. I mean, before marriage, children, things like that, and I was very screwed up back then. I completely take the blame for it. It was certainly not the person that I was with at the time that deserved it by any means. It was my own, insecurities, my own, issues or whatever that had me make that choice. It was very brief, very, very brief. But I'm disclosing everything on this show. But I do remember going out publicly with them once and being terrified. And it was very funny, and it wasn't going to be disclosed or anything like that. But it was still, I just certainly didn't do it for the excitement of risk taking. But a lot of people do have affairs for that thing. And they, as I said, having been cheated on in a very public way, I think part of the thrill for my ex was that was the risk taking. Was a risk taker. He got off on that, so I think that played into that very much so. But yeah, I mean, if we separate out the families, if these were two single people, well, then they wouldn't be having an affair, would they? But if there weren't people that were going to be impacted or hurt by this, then fine, do whatever you want. But I think you do have to think about the other person and the long-term effects that has on them and their ability to trust again. And in no way should this Megan Kerrigan, his soon-to-be ex-wife, feel ashamed or embarrassed or hang her head in shame. She was completely innocent in this, in just what we know. I mean, I don't know about their marriage. I'm not going to say I don't know if she ever cheated or not, but in this situation, she is the innocent party. So yes, you can separate it out. The spouses are the innocent party, and these two, maybe they deserved it. Maybe they got their comeuppance. Maybe this is justice, and that's why people are taking pleasure in this. But it's, as I said, I think we need, I love that quote from that Kat Rosenfield, just to say, reflect on what part of you is taking a gleeful response to this. As Barry said earlier, is this projection? Is this a way that you don't feel so bad about your own stuff? Because, hey, what they did was what I did. So it's such an interesting subject. Such a,
Yeah, frankly, for me, it is an indication, again, that people don't always take relationships seriously. They don't keep the commitment to the relationship for as long as it is. Because if this was a relationship that was ending on both sides, or even one side, having a conversation between the two spouses to say, this is not working, I need to take a break, or I'm, going to file for divorce, before they then meet somebody else is one thing. But to stay in the marriage, it's like having a cake and eating it too, which is not, it's like it doesn't have that sense of justice, of honesty, and of respect. And so for me, there's this subsidence, or this collapse of the relationship, where only one partner really knows what's going on, and taking advantage of that. And the other person's been left in the drift in the cold. Yeah. And that's the frustration of this, is that yes, there is a vicarious judgment coming from lots of people without real compassion, care, and concern for the ex-spouses on both sides who got basically left behind and put on the side.
So as you're talking, I'm thinking about the situation that I had with one client who, because what you were saying about the have your cake and eat it too. And I do think, I know people for sure who cannot be alone. They just cannot be alone. So they won't leave a relationship they have until they've got the next person in place, which often means there's an affair. There's a transition period where that person's waiting in the wings. And that is a completely, selfish using of another human being. I want a warm body next to me until I find the next warm body, and I don't give a damn who gets hurt in the process. There's that level of insensitivity and entitlement in having an affair. But I'm also thinking of a client I had who was let's put it this way. She was in a relationship that was unfulfilling and had constantly talked to her partner about what she needed, in the relationship. And I would say, if I was going to label, I would say that he was very narcissistic and she was very codependent. And she loved him very much, even though she was tortured by his behavior towards her, his complete and utter lack of respect, love, warmth, consideration, all the things that narcissists lack, empathy, anything. It was just my way or the highway. But she was still very emotionally attached to him and very much in love with him. So as she described it, how can I be so in love with somebody that I feel so tortured by? And then this other person was in her life that has been professing his love for many, many years, a friend, just a friend. And there was a part of me that really did feel, because she would question whether she was asking for too much in her relationship. Maybe it's me. Maybe I want too much. Maybe, because I still love this man, maybe what he gives me is enough and there's something wrong with me. So she was actually questioning her own position in this relationship. And I have to say, there was a part of me that really almost felt like, test the waters with the other person to see if you start having the same feeling of lack. Because if it happens there, then yes, definitely that there may be something in you that is unfulfillable. Doesn't matter what the other person does, you cannot be fulfilled. And you're going to constantly go to that, it's not enough, it's not enough. So in that situation, I almost felt like, have the damn affair. and before you end this marriage, that you still really love this person, because you have doubts as to how much is your responsibility in that relationship of not getting your needs met. So there are layers to it, is what I'm saying. There are definitely, it's not a black and white, because she did say to her partner all the time, my husband, I feel like I want to have an affair. I'm craving affection. I'm craving being held. I'm craving this other thing. And he was just like, go and get it then. Go and get it then.
So, so you're saying basically it was pretty much almost like an open relationship in the sense it wasn't really a structure of the unity of the two people.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you say, fine, let's divorce. He was like saying, no, just go cheat on me and then come back, sort of thing.
I almost think he was calling her bluff, though. I really honestly don't think he would have been open to that. But he was saying, take it or leave it. This is who I am. This is all I can give you. And if you want something else, go and find it somewhere else. So that was his response, rather than really hearing her verbalize what was missing: the physical connection, the hugging, the loving, the feeling like a partnership, feeling that he respected her and valued her.
So in a way, there's the shift from feeling sorry for the spouse to feeling like the spouse deserved what he got because he didn't step up.
He got. It's just like it wasn't even about who deserves what. It was more a case of, especially as there was some doubt as to whether her needs or expectations were excessive. It was almost the case of, well, he obviously doesn't want a divorce. He didn't want a divorce. Because she would say, I feel I'm going to have to leave you. And he's like, don't leave. But I can't give you any more than I'm already giving you. So she was in a bind. So I'm just saying, I'm throwing it out there to just say, and then there's other situations where I do know that where a spouse has become physically incapacitated or even mentally incapacitated. Maybe they have early onset dementia or something like that. And the partner doesn't want to leave, their spouse doesn't want to leave them, doesn't want to get a divorce, doesn't want to leave that person who is now very vulnerable, both physically and emotionally, but they have physical needs that they want and that they go outside of the marriage to get. So I'm just saying, I'm not like cut and dry, every affair is bad and they deserve to be exposed. I'm just saying there are complexities that we don't know. And we're just, this whole reaction to this scandal is an assumption. And as I said, I'm more looking at the behavior of the people that are jumping on, dogpiling on this situation and gleefully, pointing fingers.
Right.
For all we know, maybe they do have an open relationship. I don't think so from what his wife posted, his soon-to-be ex-wife posted. I don't think it was open on their side, but maybe on the other side it was. We don't know.
This is the thing that it's so important to I won't say give and get permission always. Like almost have to make it conducive. Because things, if for example, she was fine with swinging or having other relationships, because her husband was fine with that too. But on the other side, she and her husband, the other one in the kiss cam video image, didn't have that. There was definitely a lack of equality there in the conversation, because it's almost like maybe she tempted him out of the marriage to have the affair, so that he's now stuck between a rock and a hard place because he didn't choose it, but he now is by default chosen it because he's stuck out of the relationship. So there's a whole mess there to be cleaned up. And the thing is, there's a different thing brewing. Okay, that's going somewhere else. But the people basically, like in the polygamy community, people who choose to have multiple partners, and I've got friends that do that. It's not for me. It's not something that interests me at all. And I've always had a bit of a challenge with that because it feels like it's too diluted. It's not enough unity with one person. That's my belief. Not saying it's the only way.
So there's not enough what?
It's not enough unity. It's not enough connection with one. If you try to split between more than one person, because there's only so much time in the day. How much time can you split? If you give it away with other people, you're subdividing, and therefore you're diluting your ability to be one with one person. That's again my viewpoint. So this context of having the affair where both partners have spouses who choose out of their relationship. If they both choose out, that's one thing. But if one chooses and the other one gets tempted, seduced out of their relationship, that's a different story as well. And so this context.
What do you mean by seduced out of the relationship? Are you saying, okay, so there's a couple, and one of them gives the other one permission to, I mean, because swinging is different from polygamy, from an open marriage. I mean, there are certain people that have the rule that, don't tell, if you need to step out to get other needs met, just don't tell me about it. You can do it, but just don't, come home and report it. And there's others that are like, oh no, we swing and we only do things together, and nobody cheats because it's all in front of each other. Well, some people are not into that. Some people are not into the open marriage. It's like, do your thing, just don't tell me about it. But I'm reading a fascinating book right now. It's called Mating in Captivity, the Esther Perel book, and it talks about sort of the history of marriage. We should really do a whole show about this because this is just fascinating. We will do it, but I'll just mention a couple of things here. And that is, the expectation we put on our partners now that they provide us with everything. And sometimes, and she has I want to go more in this next week. We'll talk about this because it's so fascinating. And it doesn't break down along male-female lines. It's or masculine and feminine. It actually is certain people, and that's why I think I do sometimes feel like there's a very strong masculine side to me, because I have what would sometimes be considered classical male traits when it comes to love and relationships. Yeah. And it's so funny because my now husband, Hootie, falls into what would be classically described as more of the feminine emotional role in the relationship, put it that way. And we'll go into that more next week. But what I really want to highlight here is, as we're talking about these sort of open relationships or affairs and things, is that sometimes I do think that we have, in contemporary marriages, because obviously marriage used to be just a financial arrangement hundreds of years ago, it wasn't based on love. But now we base our relationships on love, but love doesn't always equal sexual compatibility. So you can love somebody and have incredible emotional connection, psychological, spiritual, whatever, but not the sexual chemistry you may have had with somebody else. Okay. We are at a time in our lives where we are really questioning whether one person can meet all of our needs. And is that fair to put that expectation on them?
See, this is where I get to the point of, like, if you are looking that you don't find the person that fits all your needs, are you looking hard enough? Because I feel like that, because I feel there's if you have, like, there's a live for every pot type thing. If you're really clear about the things you want, this, and this, and this, and you find a partner who only do 2 or 3 of the 7 things you have listed, then you say, okay, I'm going to find 2 different people to cover the 2 different parts of my life. So that seems a bit odd. To me, it feels like that you really ought to be thinking, okay, if I really want all these things, and they are absolutely non-negotiable, I must have these things, then hold out for that. Be willing to wait, or be willing to search, or be willing to go through and meet enough people till you find one person who does meet all those standards, all those needs that you have, if that's really true for you.
Well, this has definitely got to be continued next week, because this is where we see things a little differently. Yeah. To be continued. This is fascinating. So next week we're going to be talking about mating in captivity, and is there one person for you, and can somebody meet all of your emotional, spiritual, and physical, sexual needs as well? So thank you for listening. And we will be back next week for part 2 of this discussion. So, it's a fascinating one. And again, there's no right and wrong. Just the only thing I would leave with you is that sort of, just when you find yourself gleefully enjoying the pain of others, maybe look a little deeper into what's propelling you to feel and think that way.
Be a little more gentle, definitely.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Barry, for another great chat. And we will see you next week. Okay. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. We trust you enjoyed this episode and invite you to share this with your friends and loved ones. In fact, please subscribe to our Relationship Mastery podcast. That way you'll get each new episode fresh and shiny as soon as it is released. We'd love to hear from you as well. So go ahead and enter your questions and comments at relationshipmastery.show. Take good care. We will connect with you in our next episode of Relationship Mastery.